Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Paprika. This is the final reaction for the 2020 holiday special, a very Satoshi Kon holiday. After this, next week is Christmas Day for those who celebrate it. And on Christmas Day, I will be uploading a review of Tokyo Godfathers instead of a reaction, just for obvious reasons, I feel. Why give you guys a big reaction to watch on Christmas Day? Again, for those who celebrate it. For those who don't, I mean, it doesn't matter as much, but, you know. I mean, other people are celebrating other holidays around this time anyway, so, you know. In the end, it's not a big deal either way, I guess. But, you know, that's what I'm choosing to do. But yeah, so far, our first two films of this very Satoshi Kon holiday have been good. Rojin Z was a surprise hit for me, and Millennium Actress, while definitely more expected, was still very good in its own right. Now Paprika, though, is one that everyone talks about with Satoshi Kon works. Right up there with Perfect Blue, it's probably, well, and Tokyo Godfathers, probably one of, if not the most famous of his works. I don't know much of anything about it. All I know is this one is supposed to be a mindfuck. This is supposed to be one of his mindfuck films. That's really all I know about it. I don't know about the story or anything. I've seen a couple clips randomly throughout the years, but never really had any context for them and never really focused on them when I saw them. It was just like during a compilation video or something every random bit of time. So I don't really know what to expect exactly. But I am excited. I am very excited for this. Because this holiday special has proven to be very enjoyable and just a fun idea. Switching it up from like just doing normal like holiday films, I think this was a very fun, enjoyable idea for the holiday this year. Get caught up on some anime films that I've wanted to see and just enjoy the holiday in a different way, you know? All leading up to one of my favorite holiday films, as you saw on my list, Tokyo Godfathers. So yeah. Very excited to get to this. Even the title, unlike Millennium Actress, there's not really much to derive from the title of Paprika, because paprika is a spice, and I mean a good spice, but like, what are you supposed to get from that? Does the movie have something to do with the spice, or is it something else? Could it be like a character's name in some fashion? I don't know. That's the thing. It's a lot more. Excuse me. It's a lot more vague as a title than Millennium Actress or even Tokyo Godfathers is. Um, it, it's more akin to Perfect Blue in terms of its vagueness. Perfect Blue didn't really tell you anything about the story either. Now, of course, like all of these titles have made sense after the fact, but in terms of going in, I mean, even Paranoia Agents, like that gave you more to work with. Um, but yeah, it's like this one, not as much so. Um, I I don't know what to expect. Let's just leave it at that. I do not know what to expect, but I am still very excited and very interested. Um, with this movie as well, I'll have seen all of Satoshi Kon's works. This is the final film I believe, unless I'm forgetting something that I have not seen. In fact, I'm actually really curious now. I'm second guessing myself, so I want to look it up. I believe so, though, because. God damn it. I dropped something. I'll pick it up in a second. Good thing it's easy to find this. Um. Okay, well, this will. Okay, outside of a short film that came out in 2008, which is like 15 minutes long or so, I'll have seen all of his directorial works at this point. This 15-minute short film, which is actually apparently a series of 15 1-minute shorts, um, that's not like a movie or a show or anything, so I'm not really counting that. But yeah, otherwise, I've seen all of his directorial works, and I've even seen one of his animation works for Roshan Z now. There's other stuff he's done as writer and animator that I haven't seen, but I've seen most of them. Still, I've still seen most of his works. Like I've even seen the original 1993 JoJo OVA, which he did storyboard and direction for episode 12 and animation for episode 9 on. And he co-wrote it as well with Hiroyuki Kitakubo. But anyway, so yeah, I have seen all of his directorial films and series as of seeing this. I will have. And I'll have seen pretty much all of his directorial works except for, again, the 15-minute short. But yeah, yeah. So I'm excited to see this, excited to see the big one, basically. And I really can't wait. So we're just going to get this started. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, unlike Millennium Actress, which was described in the general synopsis as kind of blending or like merging reality with fiction and everything like that, and kind of blurring the lines rather between them within the film, which I really didn't see in that one. This one is definitely clear here, especially near the end. So yeah, this was a really interesting story that kind of blended like sci-fi with fantasy in a really interesting way. Bring together the idea of this DC mini device that can allow people to go inside each other's dreams. Which, even just the concept alone, when you think about it, is like, yeah, that can be done. That could be definitely used for some fucked up things. Like just hearing that concept right away, it's like, oh yeah, that's dangerous. And since it's only a prototype at the moment in the film, these fears kind of come to pass. There is a good bit of mystery with this as to who was really behind it. At first, of course, we thought it was Himuro, but then it was revealed to eventually, in the end, be the chairman as well as Osanai. Um, Throughout a good portion of it, I was after, especially after Himuro was revealed as the bad guy, I was suspecting Osanai at that point because there were certain things he was saying, certain moments that just seemed off. It just seemed like something was a little suspicious about him. And I couldn't place exactly what. I think it was just the way he was saying certain things, which would be credit more to the actor, the voice actor, than anything. And speaking of, by the way, just real quick, I found out between the reaction and these afterthoughts, I found out that Satoshi Kon himself actually voiced the bartenders. So that's a really fun little like cameo there from the director. um, but yeah, this was just really genuinely interesting as a concept. And like I said, there were definitely parts of it where it's hard to tell what was reality and what was just the dream. And in the end, what I kind of saw it as in the end is that they were actually literally starting to blend because of all these people around, all their dreams were being taken over because of the chairman and Osanai, and that they were actually acting upon it in the real world. We saw people doing that. We saw Dr. Shima do that at one point where he jumped out the frickin' window. Um, and two other researchers did that as well. We see that the dreams can actually pervade their conscious mind and cause them to act upon it. So during the end climax and everything, I think that's what was happening. They were in the real world, but the dreams were starting to invade their minds. That their conscious minds had already been infected with the dreams. So that entire final battle was the dream world kind of just worming its way into the real world through the consciousness of the people within it, which is a really fascinating concept, all things considered. Um, and it really led to some great, just great climax action there. Even though a lot of it was like very passive, like a lot of the action wasn't like super exciting or whatnot compared to like more action based movies. It was definitely more on a psychological scale and focused more on the characters kind of one upping each other in terms of this psychological warfare. Um, which I enjoyed. I thought that was a good way to handle it. Like even in the end, when Atsuko defeated the chairman, like all she really did to do it was like kind of combine forces with Tokita and take over the dream. She took control of it by like absorbing it into her dream self, which, yeah, wild to think about for one, but also it worked. It took control of the dream state from the chairman, and allowed her to stop everything. That's why at the end, when the dream was over, they were still standing in the city, though, because like even the dream was stopped, but they were still where they were because, again, it had pervaded real life. There were some other things as well that I didn't realize that I only found out about when I looked up the plot synopsis after the reaction and everything before I started these afterthoughts. There was one part like Osanai apparently after he was shot by the cop Konakawa in the dream, apparently his like physical body in the real world died, and it's like I either I missed that somehow or it didn't. It wasn't like super obvious in its presentation. Yeah, apparently his real body died at that point. And it never really reveals, I guess, the ultimate fate of the chairman, but I guess maybe the same could be said for him. We know Himuro died. Well, technically, he was still being technically kept alive, but he was in a complete irreversible vegetative state. And I assume that's probably what happened to Osanai as well, except that he wasn't able to get on the like medical devices quick enough to be able to save him or something. And it might have happened with the chairman too, for all we know. Just stuff like that. Um, but yeah, that's like a really interesting idea. Um, Also, the entire thing about Atsuko in the end being in love with Tokita, it's really fucking cute. And there was definitely throughout the film hints of that she cared for him, which really made her blow up at him, her blowing up and attacking him so vitriolically with that tirade, that rant she gave, that it made it hurt so much more because you could tell she did actually care for him. And it's just like it's so sad because of it. And you find out in the end that they're getting married and all. It's like, okay, cool. Like that's awesome. And it's like, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about Tokita because this film made very clear and put notable focus on him being obese. Like Tokito was like he's very obese. And the film made note of that. He even admitted it that he just loves to eat, that he enjoys food. I mean, you saw all that food he was eating at the restaurant. Um and it showed that he's fully aware of this. And we see others use it against him in kind of a insulting way, but he always moves on. And it makes also very clear that he is a genius. He is a literal just genius, scientific genius. And it makes very huge notes of that throughout the film that he's not just a fat joke in this movie. Tokita isn't just like one big like fat joke. He's a character who in the end is worthy of love and is very capable. And I really love that. Like Satoshi Kon's been pretty proactive and progressive in his films. And I can only imagine the amazing stuff he could have done if he hadn't passed when he did. The amazing films that could have been made if he had remained alive. I mean, because thing about Tokyo Godfathers, which I'll be talking about next week and go into all the detail there on that and my love for that. But he actually was just a really like, despite all the mindfuckery, despite all of the just wild imagery and stuff in his films and in his series Paranoia Agent, despite all that, like you could see that he showed a love for humanity by his portrayal of these characters and all of humanity. He very much showed that discrimination wasn't on his mind and that he wanted to showcase all these different kinds of people and all these different kinds of roles, jobs, social statuses. And he wanted to show them as people worthy of love, worthy of admiration. And I just always admired that about Satoshi Kon's works. And this movie is a great example of that. Getting to see it with all these different characters, but especially Tokita. Now, then I want to talk about Konakawa. So, Konakawa had been having this recurring dream about a case he had been working, about this guy who had been killed. And he's been having this recurring nightmare. It's been really plaguing him. And throughout the film, we kind of like start to see little bits and pieces of his character and his own insecurities and depressions as he's gone throughout his life. And eventually we find out the full truth. That when he was 17 years old, him and his best friend decided to make an independent film. But before it could be completed, he left the project and abandoned his friend. And it wasn't out of jealousy, it was actually out of feelings, out of anger and resentment that he wasn't more resentful towards his friend. It was these complicated, honestly human emotions. He cared so much for his friend, but always felt like he should have been resentful, weirdly enough. um, but it drove a wedge between them, and he left. And his friend ended up getting sick and dying down the line, with him never having been told of it and only finding out after the fact, which is really fucking sad. And ever since, he's been having these recurring nightmares, seeing, especially with this recent case he's had, seeing the corpse in the hallway and everything. He's kind of started to see it as he killed himself. It wasn't like in a literal sense, like he tried to commit suicide, although that might have happened. It was more that he killed his own happiness with his actions in the past. But throughout this film, he accepts the past. He accepts what happened, and moves on. He's able to find clarity and peace in the past and move forward to a new future. And it's a wonderful idea, wonderful lesson about not letting your mistakes of the past rule your life, not letting the bad things you've done control you and haunt you forever. And it does hit me because I've done and said terrible things. I've done and said really terrible things to people in the past. I used to be really, really terrible in a lot of ways. And I've done everything I possibly could to work past that, to become better. But I still have regrets over the way I've acted, the things I've said, the things I've done. And I'll probably always regret them, but I've got to learn to live with the fact that they happened and that I need to be able to move on and work to make things better, but not let my past actions control me and haunt me. So I definitely related and connected to his struggles in this film. And then you have Chiba herself, who was on the lead design team for this product, started using it illegally in order to help patients and work with patients and stuff. And her entire storyline, her entire thread in this film was definitely about holding herself back. She tried to to showcase this professional aura in her real life, only letting loose and truly being herself while portraying Paprika. I questioned a couple times throughout the film if Paprika was like an actual alternate personality um, that she had and wasn't really aware of. And in a way, it kind of was. Paprika was her true self, unbound, unrestricted, just letting go of all of the formalities and false just presentations that she went through on a daily basis. As Paprika, she truly got to be herself. And by the end of the film, we see the giant form of her after when she's working with Tomika. I mentioned his name before, and now it's kind of escaping me. But when she's working with him in the end, she kind of merged the giant form at the end that she finally turns into after absorbing the chairman and everything. It kind of looks like a combination between her and Paprika. And I don't know what the actual intention was for this, but it very much to me read as she finally accepted herself, and she's finally ready to let Paprika out, to not hide who she is anymore. And Tomika helped with that, allowing her to finally acknowledge and admit her love for him. And it resulted in them getting married. So her entire story was definitely about self acceptance and the ability to be your true self around others, which again, I can very much relate to. I can very much understand, especially as a trans woman. Like that is something I go through on a daily basis. um, and the doctor, she, not she, was it Shimura? The old guy. He was just more of a fun character. Like he was more of a support to everyone else, especially to Chiba. He wasn't he didn't really have this big character arc like the other characters did. Um, Osanai kind of had one. It's like there were definitely hints that he was a little off, but when it's finally revealed, he just becomes really creepy. But then you also find out he genuinely cares for her, even if in a very creepy way. Osanai in the end loved Chiba. He had a he had a crush on her. He wanted her, but in a very unhealthy way. And he worked with the chairman not only just because he believed it was the right move, but it allowed him to invade these dreams and stuff, which would allow him to come into better contact with her. And yeah, I just feel like there was ulterior motives there that were less than pleasant. And the scene especially where he's ripping off the paprika shell around Chiba and everything, and it starts by him like merging his hand into her crotch and then moving up and like kind of cutting away the shell by going up through her entire body like that. It was clearly meant to be read as very sensual, but also very rapey. It was very rapey. Like I was really uncomfortable watching that, and it was very clear you were supposed to be. Like I mean, not just because he was one of the bad guys, but because it was a genuinely fucked up scene. He was very fucked up, and it was basically equivalent of sexual assault, even if in the dream world. And it was like kind of just this holy shit moment. And yeah, it just was really uncomfortable. The music in this, that is one thing I did know about from the couple of short clips I had seen scattered around throughout the years. Um, Especially the main theme that played with the parade, the Dream Parade. Like I had seen a couple clips of that parade with that theme starting before, and it's like the instant I heard it in this film, it's like, okay, I remember that now, and it just the song itself isn't anything special, but with the visuals and everything and the specific way it's brought in every time, it feels like something otherworldly in a very good way. It just it definitely fits with the entire dreamscape of this all. Now, as to if I would say this movie had any specific like overlaying themes for the entire film, it would be about control, because that's what all of this was about with controlling people's dreams and the chairman wanting full control and everything. It was all about the dangers of trying to control others. Obviously, using this dream technology as the the metaphor for it. But we can see this in the other characters. We can see this in Osanai and his sexual control over Chiba, or attempted at least. We can see this in the way that Chiba herself tries to control her feelings and tries to hold them back. How the chief, or captain rather, tries to control his own memories so that he doesn't have to deal with the past. And just all of this, all of these various just metaphors about the dangers of trying to control others. And it's just a really good film with a good message that we should focus on our own problems, focus on fixing and healing ourselves before we try to control others. So I just really thought it was a good way to look at things in that regard. The animation was great, the voice acting was great, but that was all expected from a Satoshi Kon film, honestly. Um, it was super creative, like the parade itself, like the things that were specifically put in it, like just super creative, really interesting. Like during the big dream stuff, when you see people transforming into these objects, it's like, oh, that's really interesting, that's cool. There's also a lot of great moments, like specific moments that feel like, oh yeah, this is like a moment that stands out. Like the one where there's that line of people standing on the building, and the one guy in the front's like, it's showtime, and then they all just fall off like one after another in that very specific pattern, and it's like that's both beautiful and horrifying at the same time. And it's like I kind of love that. I kind of really love that. It was just a really just standout moment. Obviously, the parade scenes are standout moments. The final battle, of course, standout moment. All of that kind of stuff. Getting to see Himuro's face on the doll for the first time. Just those little moments that like feel like, okay, this could easily be a trailer shot because this is going to be something that'll hook someone in. And so yeah, it was really good in that regard. Um, the characters just throughout the film were likable. The story was really interesting, and the viewing experience was good. It was enjoyable to watch. It never felt like it was going too long. The pacing felt fine. It never felt like it was a little boring at parts. It always felt like it was keeping your attention at the right times, for the right amount of time before moving on to the next big thing. It just it did really well, and I loved it. In terms of where I would place it amongst other Satoshi Kon films, it's definitely above Perfect Blue. And honestly, I think I like this more than Millennium Actress. So I would say like I would say that Tokyo Godfathers I still like more, but I would put this above Millennium Actress and Perfect Blue. Um, and while it's not a movie, I would probably put it above Paranoia Agents as well. Although I do love Paranoia Agents. And also, even though it wasn't a directorial movie, for Satoshi Kon, since I also reacted to it for this holiday special, I'm going to count Rojin Z as well. Um, I would actually put Rojin Z pretty high up there because again, that one really surprised me at how much I enjoyed it. But I think this one, both of them kind of have a similar thing to them too. Like technology going too far and doing things it shouldn't be doing that goes into all these moral dilemmas and shit. Like it's kind of similar in that regard. Obviously, not the exact same structure and ideas and specific themes, but yeah. But I think I still would put this over Roach and Z. This was just really damn good. And I'm sure I would need to see it again to fully get a grasp of certain things. Watching it again, I'll probably see things that I did not notice the first time. I'll probably catch on to things I did not notice the first time. And there will be certain things that will be made more clear, I'm sure. But overall, this was a fantastic film, and I'm glad to have finally seen it. But like I've said, next week is our final week for the holiday special. It will be on Christmas Day. For those who celebrate Christmas, for those who don't, I guess it's just Thursday for you. Or I don't know, is Hanukkah still going on at that time? I don't know when Hanukkah's dates are, so I'm not exactly sure how that works. Um, there might be other celebrations, other holidays on the 25th, though, or at least go around that time. I should look that up. Just to find out more about those kind of things, other cultures, other holidays based on various things. But anyways, on the 25th will be the final part of the 2020 holiday special, and it will be a review of Tokyo Godfathers, which I've already made clear through my list of my favorite holiday films is my second favorite holiday film of all time. And I've kind of made it clear here today as well that it's my favorite Satoshi Kon film. So you're going to find out exactly why I love it so much next week. But in the meantime, tell me in the comments below what you thought of Paprika. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Did you find stuff that I didn't find? Did you disagree with some of the themes and messages and ideals and other things shown throughout the film? Let me know your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. Have a very happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, and I'll see y'all next time.